Welcome back! Thanks for joining us today for a very special episode. I'm Brittany from Hawaii Wedding Studio, and today we're diving into the secret sauce of a truly memorable island ceremony. We're moving past the paperwork and the stress to talk about the sacred rituals and the local expertise that turn a simple wedding into a soul-stirring experience on the shores of Oahu. All right, let's get engaged.
Rolling back, trying to talk into facts. Stay a while, press and play. You're smart, great, every day.
Welcome back to the Hawaii Wedding Studio podcast, everyone. I'm Sam.
And I'm Riley. We are super pumped you're joining us for another deep dive today.
We really are. So today's mission for you, the listener, is all about how to craft a truly meaningful, completely custom-tailored Hawaiian wedding. Or, an elopement.
Right, because getting married in paradise, it obviously sounds like an absolute dream.
Oh, for sure. But how do you actually infuse real meaning into a beach ceremony without just getting totally crushed by the logistics or the unpredictable weather or just the sheer cognitive overload of the day itself?
It's a huge challenge. And to figure that out, we are looking at this massive stack of source material today.
Yeah, we've got articles detailing some incredibly unique ceremony add-ons, everything from unity candles to the veil and cord rituals, plus a bunch of poetic readings and dozens of real-world reviews from couples who got married on Oahu.
And it's fascinating because before we even worry about the logistics of where to get married, we really need to look at how couples are making the actual ceremony unique.
Right, going way beyond just exchanging rings. So let's start with the symbolic add-ons.
Yeah, the sources dive heavily into these highly tactile traditions, things with real Filipino and Hispanic roots, like the veil and cord ceremony.
Okay, so paint a picture for us. How does this actually work in practice, especially on a breezy coastline?
So during the ceremony, sponsors, who are usually, close friends or family members, they take this large white veil and literally pin it over the bride's head and then drape the other side around the groom's shoulders.
Wow. Okay, so they're literally tied together.
Exactly. By wrapping the couple in this single piece of cloth, they are visually demonstrating a protective bond. They're facing the world not as two isolated individuals anymore, but as this unified front, clothed as one entity.
And then comes the rope, right?
Well, the cord, yeah. Different sponsors step forward and place this silk or floral cord loosely around the couple's necks. But, and this is key, it's not a simple circle.
Figure eight, right.
Right. It's draped in a figure eight to represent an infinite lifelong bond. It physically binds them together right in that exact moment.
That is an intense visual. I mean, it's kind of like a recipe, You don't need every single spice in the cabinet for your wedding.
No, definitely not. That would be a mess.
Right. But adding something unexpected like the cord or what's the other one? The heiress. The 13 coins flowing into your partner's hands. It adds a totally unique flavor to the commitment.
It really does. It changes the whole texture of the ceremony.
But, okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second here. With all these moving parts, candles, veils, figure eight cords, literal boxes of butterflies, doesn't this run the risk of feeling like a chaotic theatrical production?
Such as a solemn vow?
Yeah. Imagine a sudden gust of wind on an Oahu beach catches that veil. Someone is struggling with the pins. The cord gets tangled on a collar. Doesn't that physical clumsiness ruin the vibe?
See, you would think so, but that physical friction is actually the secret ingredient to why the ritual works.
Wait, really? How so?
Think about the cognitive nature of a promise. We live in this era where commitments are so ephemeral. A promise today is what? A text message, an email.
Yeah, or just a casual, I'll be there, that someone totally bails on.
Exactly. But a wedding requires a promise of forever. And that is an overwhelmingly massive abstract concept.
Totally. It's just words until it's actually tested by time.
Right. So to process that massive abstraction, the human brain requires what we call a somatic marker, a tangible physical sensation.
Oh, I get it. So the awkwardness forces you to pay attention.
Precisely. When you are wrestling with a veil in the wind or feeling the actual weight of a cord resting on your shoulders, you're forced out of your own head. You literally cannot be absent-minded.
That shifts the perspective entirely. The awkwardness isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It interrupts that whole blur of the wedding day.
Exactly. It completely grounds you in the present physical reality of your body. Another really compelling example of this from the sources is the heiress, or the coin ceremony.
Right. The 13 coins. I was stuck on that while reading the material. Why an odd number?
So historically, the 13 coins represent Jesus and the 12 apostles. But pragmatically, today it operates as this physical pledge of prosperity and shared wealth.
Okay, so the minister passes them to the groom, and then what?
The groom lets them flow directly into the bride's cupped hands. Passing those heavy metal coins back and forth signifies a commitment that her needs will be taken care of and that all their resources are now pooled.
But passing loose change back and forth over loose sand, that seems like a massive risk. What if they drop one?
If a coin drops in the sand, they bend down together to retrieve it. It becomes this immediate, completely unscripted metaphor for navigating life's unpredictable mistakes as a team.
Oh, wow. I love that. It forces a shared memory. And I guess I'm seeing this underlying mechanism with the nature-based add-ons as well, right?
Oh, for sure. The tree planting, the butterflies.
Yeah, the sources detail couples mixing soil from 2 different containers to plant a tree, or releasing butterflies from a little bamboo box.
Getting damp dirt under your fingernails while planting a tree creates a profound sensory anchor. Decades later, that couple won't just remember the words they said.
They'll remember the smell of the earth.
Exactly. They'll remember the smell of the earth and the texture of the soil on their skin. That is how a memory bypasses short-term recall and embeds itself permanently into your psyche.
You're basically giving the brain a physical hook to hang the abstract promise on.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Okay, so we've established these incredibly heavy physical anchors, the cords, the soil, the metal coins. But a physical action requires language to give it context, right?
Absolutely. If the rituals act as the body of the ceremony, the readings and the poetry provide the soul.
Let's talk about those words. The library of readings we reviewed really dictates the entire emotional architecture of the event, like that passage from Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist.
Oh, that one is beautiful. It frames love as this ancient, universal language. He writes about the concept of the twin soul.
The idea that when 2 specific people encounter each other, the past and the future just lose all relevance.
Yes, it gives this huge sense of cosmic destiny to the ceremony. It implies that out of billions of humans, a grand design brought these 2 exact individuals to this specific beach at this specific time.
It's the ultimate romantic ideal. But then the sources also pivot to something far more grounded, like Roy Croft's poem.
On friendship. Yeah, that's a great contrast.
The core line there is, I love you, not for what you are, but what I am when I am with you. Which totally removes the pressure of the other person needing to be some flawless cosmic deity.
Right. It shifts the focus to the psychological chemistry between the 2 people. It represents a highly mature understanding of partnership.
Because a sustainable marriage isn't just about admiring your partner's traits, is it?
No, it's about observing how their presence acts as a catalyst for your own growth. They bring out a braver, kinder version of yourself.
Which flows perfectly into the indigenous blessings from the sources. They take this concept of mutual support and tie it directly back to the physical environment.
The Apache and Navajo readings.
Yeah. They speak about being the shelter from the rain for one another and providing warmth from the cold. The Navajo prayer explicitly mentions loving each other with the patience of the sun and the bravery of the sea.
And imagine that. When you're standing outdoors in Hawaii, feeling the heat of the sun on your neck, hearing the crash of the ocean behind you.
It must be incredible.
Those words just dissolve the barrier between the human experience and the natural world. You are literally invoking the power of the elements around you to bear witness to your vow.
Okay, but here is where we hit a massive contradiction in the literature, and I have to bring this up.
Oh, lay it on me.
Let's look up the excerpt from Khalil Gibran's book, The Prophet. We established the veil ceremony earlier, right? Pinning a single piece of cloth over 2 people to visually merge them into one entity facing the world.
Right, the ultimate visual representation of unity.
Yet, the prophet explicitly advises couples to, and I quote, let there be spaces in your togetherness. It says, fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup.
Ah, yes. Stand together, yet not too near together.
Exactly. Frankly, that sounds like advice for maintaining healthy boundaries with a college roommate, not instructions for a lifelong marriage. I mean, isn't it totally counterintuitive for a wedding reading to emphasize separateness instead of unity?
It sounds like it, but it actually presents this brilliant philosophical paradox. Khalil Gibran is challenging the dangerous misconception that marriage requires a total erasure of the individual self.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
To understand the mechanics of this, look at the final line of that passage.
Yeah.
The oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow.
Right, the botanical metaphor.
Exactly. If you plant an oak tree and a cypress tree in the exact same hole, their root systems are going to aggressively compete for the exact same nutrients.
They just strangle each other underground.
They would. And one will inevitably wither in the canopy's shade. They require distinct, separate soil to grow strong enough trunks to eventually interlock their branches high in the sky.
Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense.
Gibran also mentions the pillars of a temple standing apart. If you push the structural pillars of a roof too close together, they lose their ability to distribute the weight, and the entire roof just collapses.
Wait, connecting that back to the figure-8 infinity chord we discussed earlier.
Yes. Think about it. To construct a structurally sound figure-8, you rely entirely on the tension between two distinct separate loops.
Right, because if you pull those loops together until they collapse into a single circle...
the infinity structure vanishes, you're just left with a knot.
Mind blown. Seriously.
Khalil Gibran is reminding couples that you can only be a shelter for someone else, like the Apache blessing demands, if you actually possess the structural integrity to stand on your own 2 feet.
So a sustainable marriage relies on two complete individuals choosing to walk side by side rather than two halves desperately trying to form a whole.
Precisely. The tension between the veil representing the unified front and the trees standing apart representing individual integrity, that exact tension is what makes the partnership function.
It's the balance of those two opposing forces that creates a resilient structure.
Yeah.
We've established this beautiful philosophical framework here, but the moment you attempt to execute this deeply abstract poetry on a literal public beach in Oahu, you collide with some brutal practical realities.
Oh, absolutely. Paradise is a living, breathing ecosystem. It's not a controlled Hollywood soundstage.
And ecosystems inherently involve volatility. Let's look at the actual meteorology mentioned in the data. The materials warn heavily about Kona storms.
Yeah, those are no joke.
For anyone unfamiliar, Hawaii's weather is generally stabilized by trade winds blowing consistently from the northeast. But occasionally those winds break down in reverse direction, pulling dark, heavy moisture up from the south, the Kona direction.
And the resulting weather is definitely not a gentle cinematic mist.
No. It is a sudden, violent system of torrential rain, flash flooding, and high winds that can materialize with almost zero warning. And then add to that the logistical friction of the state government.
Ah, the permits.
Right. You cannot simply walk onto a Hawaiian beach and set up an archway. The Department of Land and Natural Resources strictly enforces permit requirements. Plus, popular locations like Magic Island are vibrant, highly trafficked public spaces.
Packed with tourists and local families just trying to enjoy their weekend.
Exactly. So this introduces the critical concept of cognitive load. Imagine a couple trying to recite Gibran's poetry while their brain is simultaneously processing the threat of a looming thundercloud.
And the anxiety of maybe not having a proper state permit.
Plus a stranger walking through the background of their photos in a neon swimsuit. They enter a state of fight or flight, cortisol spikes.
And when cortisol spikes, the brain's amygdala takes over. The prefrontal cortex, which is the area responsible for processing complex poetry and forming long-term, meaningful emotional memories, it essentially shuts down.
So they won't remember the vows. They'll only remember the panic.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of the expert buffer becomes the absolute most critical element of the entire event.
Reviewing the field reports and the reviews in our stack, one figure emerges repeatedly as the archetype of this expert buffer, and that's Reverend James Chun.
Yes, his reviews are phenomenal. The analysis of his process reveals exactly how a facilitator alters the psychological state of a couple. He basically operates as a human shock absorber for environmental and logistical friction.
Let's break down the mechanics of that buffer. Like, when a Kona storm threatens the coast, the data shows he seamlessly pivots the entire operation.
Because he understands the topography of Oahu so well.
Right. He'll move a beach ceremony up into the mountains at the Aya Loop Trail to utilize the forest canopy as a natural windbreak. Or he shifts to controlled environments, like his Honolulu treehouse office, or his Lizard office.
He is physically manipulating the environment to preserve the emotional core of the ceremony.
He also absorbs the bureaucratic friction. He processes the state beach permits and the marriage license paperwork digitally entirely behind the scenes.
So the couple never has to interact with the anxiety of the government red tape. By intercepting that logistical burden, he creates what we can call a bubble of calm.
Because true expertise isn't merely reciting a script from an iPad, is it?
Not at all. It's controlling the external variables so the couple doesn't even have to monitor them.
The data points to these fascinating micro-interactions that reinforce this bubble, too. Like, he memorizes the vows to maintain eye contact rather than just staring down at a screen.
And delivering discrete physical cues during the rehearsal so the couple doesn't feel lost or clumsy.
He even intentionally removes himself from the frame during the first kiss, just to ensure the photography captures only the couple without an efficient hovering over their shoulders.
Which photographers absolutely love. People like Starr, Heiko, and Michelle Chun. They can get these incredible clean shots.
He also brings a 360-degree camera sometimes and enforces unplugged ceremonies.
Requiring guests to put their smartphones away is huge. In a modern context, removing digital distractions forces the community to serve as active present witnesses.
Instead of just passive content creators viewing the event through a lens, planning all this sounds a bit like trying to direct a live play while blindfolded in a wind tunnel.
That is a very accurate description.
Which brings me to the extreme stress test of this system, the spontaneous elopement. There are records in the sources of couples deciding to marry on an absolute whim.
Literally calling him up just days or sometimes hours before the event.
Yeah. So how does a facilitator compress all this rich tradition, the 13 coins, the figure 8 chords, the complex poetry, into a spontaneous event without it just degrading into a rushed drive-through wedding?
That scenario is the ultimate proof of the buffer theory. Because Reverend Chun shoulders the entire mental load of navigating the Honolulu traffic, monitoring the weather radar, and calculating the exact angle of the sunset, the couple's cognitive bandwidth is completely freed up.
They have zero responsibilities other than just being present.
They can finally breathe. And because their nervous systems are regulated, their prefrontal cortex remains active. They can actually feel the rough texture of the cord draped over their shoulders.
They can process the philosophical weight of the poetry.
Right. The logistics serve the poetry, never the other way around. When you remove the friction of reality, a chaotic last-minute elopement transforms into a profoundly mindful, spiritual experience.
The mechanics of making a commitment clearly matter so much. A truly resonant milestone isn't achieved by merely selecting a picturesque backdrop.
It requires a deep synthesis.
Exactly. You need profound, tactile symbols that interrupt the blur of the moment and anchor you to your physical body. You need timeless poetry that frames the promises you're making. And crucially, you need the operational buffer of an expert who can navigate the literal and figurative storms.
Preserving your ability to actually experience the gravity of the day, it really is the delicate balance of the tangible, messy world and the abstract promise of forever.
I couldn't have said it better. Which leaves us with a highly compelling thread to pull on as we wrap up today's deep dive. We are so glad you tuned in to the Hawaii Wedding Studio podcast, and we'd love for you to subscribe so you don't miss our future deep dives into everything you need to know about weddings in Hawaii.
And before you go, we spent a lot of time analyzing the psychology of physical objects today. So consider this in the context of your own life. If you had to select a single physical object like a cord, a heavy coin, damp soil, or something entirely unique to represent your most significant lifelong commitment, what object would you choose? And more importantly, who would you trust to place it in your hands?
Definitely something to mull over. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
What an incredible deep dive into the heart of the Hawaii wedding ceremony. We hope this gave you the inspiration to make your big day as unique as your love story. If you're ready to start planning your stress-free Oahu ceremony, head over to hawaiiweddingminister.com to connect with Reverend James Chun and the team. Until next time, stay salty, stay hitched, and we'll see you on the sands of Oahu.